There are moments in life when we find ourselves standing at the edge of impossibility, staring into a void so dark that hope itself seems like a cruel joke. Imagine being a mother, holding your child's hand, watching the light fade from their eyes day by day, knowing that no amount of love, no amount of prayer, no amount of desperation can change what's coming. Or can it? This is the story of Sarah Mitchell, a woman who refused to accept the unacceptable, a mother who dared to ask for the impossible. And on one extraordinary night, when every door had closed and every voice had fallen silent, heaven itself decided to answer. What you're about to hear isn't just a story about faith or miracles. It's about the raw power of a mother's love, the mystery of divine timing, and a moment so profound that it changed not just one life, but everyone who witnessed it. It started on an ordinary Tuesday morning in autumn. 7-year-old Emma Mitchell woke up with a headache. By noon, she couldn't stand without falling. By evening, Sarah was sitting in a sterile doctor's office, watching a neurologist's face drain of color as he studied the MRI scans. The words came slow and heavy. Aggressive brain tumor, inoperable, weeks, maybe months to live. Sarah's world completely shattered into a million pieces she didn't know how to put back together. She remembers walking to her car, sitting in the driver's seat, and screaming until her voice was gone. How do you tell your daughter she's dying? But Sarah did what mothers do. She wiped her tears, steadied her breathing, and drove home to hold her little girl. The next 3 months became a blur of hospitals, treatments, and false hopes. They tried experimental drugs that made Emma violently sick. They consulted specialists from Boston to Los Angeles, each one shaking their head with the same sympathetic expression. The tumor was growing, wrapping itself around critical brain tissue like a vine choking a tree. Surgery would kill her. Radiation would buy days, maybe weeks. Dr. Patterson, Emma's lead oncologist, finally sat Sarah down and spoke the words no parent should ever hear. "There's nothing more we can do. I'm sorry. It's time to make her comfortable." Sarah nodded, thanked him politely, and walked out of that hospital, knowing she would never accept those words. Because mothers don't give up on their children, even when the entire medical establishment tells them to. Sarah wasn't particularly religious before all this. She'd attended church sporadically, believed in God the way most people do, abstractly and distantly. But desperation has a way of making believers out of skeptics. On night 73 of Emma's diagnosis, with her daughter sleeping fitfully in the hospital bed, Sarah found herself in the hospital chapel at 3 in the morning. She knelt down, and for the first time in her life, she prayed with every atom of her being. Not the polite prayers of Sunday service, but the raw, desperate plea of a mother watching her child slip away. "I know you're there," she whispered into the darkness. "Everyone says miracles don't happen anymore, that I should prepare to say goodbye. But I'm asking you, I'm begging you, please don't take my daughter. If you can hear me, if any of this is real, please answer me. Give me a sign. Give me hope. Give me my Emma back." Tears streamed down her face as she spoke words she didn't know she had inside her. And then, something shifted in that chapel. The air felt different, charged somehow, as if she wasn't alone anymore. Sarah spent every night in Emma's hospital room sleeping in an uncomfortable chair beside her daughter's bed. On night 79, exhausted and emotionally drained, she finally fell into a deep sleep around midnight. She woke suddenly at 3:33 a.m., that strange hour when the world feels suspended between darkness and dawn. The room was filled with an unusual warmth, and standing at the foot of Emma's bed was a figure bathed in soft golden light. Sarah's first instinct was fear, then confusion, then an overwhelming sense of peace she couldn't explain. The figure, a man with gentle eyes and an ageless face, looked at Sarah with such profound compassion that she felt understood in ways she'd never experienced. "You asked for an answer," he said. his voice sounding like it came from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Heaven has heard your prayer, Sarah. Your faith, your love, your refusal to surrender, it matters more than you know. Emma's story isn't finished yet." Before Sarah could speak, he placed his hand above Emma's head without touching her, and the room filled with light so brilliant that Sarah had to close her eyes. When Sarah opened her eyes, she was alone with Emma in the dimly lit hospital room. The clock read 3:35 a.m. Had she dreamed it? She looked at Emma, still sleeping peacefully, and noticed something extraordinary. The color had returned to her daughter's face. Her breathing was deeper, steadier, more peaceful than it had been in weeks. Sarah's heart began to race. She pressed the call button for the nurse, her hands shaking. When Nurse Rodriguez entered the room, she immediately noticed the change, too. "She looks different," the nurse whispered, checking Emma's vitals with wide eyes. "Her oxygen saturation is perfect. Her heart rate is normal. How is this possible?" Dr. Patterson ordered an immediate MRI at dawn, skeptical but unable to deny what he was seeing. Sarah stood behind the glass, watching the images appear on the screen, and heard the radiologist gasp. The tumor was shrinking, not slowly, not slightly, but dramatically. Tissue that had been strangled was healing. Swelling was disappearing. Dr. Patterson stared at the scans for 15 minutes without speaking, comparing them to the previous day's images again and again. Finally, he turned to Sarah and said something she never thought she'd hear. "This shouldn't be possible. I don't know how to explain this." Over the next 10 days, Emma's recovery accelerated beyond anything medical science could explain. The tumor continued to shrink until it was completely gone, leaving behind healthy brain tissue that shouldn't have been able to regenerate. Emma woke up fully on day 5, asking for pancakes and wondering why everyone was crying. The hospital staff called it spontaneous remission, an extremely rare event they couldn't explain but had to acknowledge. But Sarah knew the truth. She knew what she'd seen in that hospital room at 3:33 a.m. She knew that heaven had answered. Emma was discharged 3 weeks later with a clean bill of health, her medical team simultaneously celebrating and scratching their heads. Dr. Patterson pulled Sarah aside on discharge day. "I've seen many things in my career," he said quietly, "but I've never seen this. Whatever happened in that room, whatever you prayed for, someone was listening. Take care of your miracle." Word of Emma's recovery spread through the hospital like wildfire, then through the community, then across the country. Sarah received letters from hundreds of parents facing similar impossible situations, all asking the same question: how did you do it? But Sarah never claimed to have special powers or secret knowledge. She simply shared her truth. She'd prayed with desperate faith, refused to give up, and something extraordinary had happened. For the mothers and fathers sitting in hospital rooms, watching their own children fight impossible battles, Emma's story became a beacon of hope. It reminded them that sometimes, just sometimes, the impossible becomes possible. That faith isn't about knowing how things will work out. It's about believing they can. That love, pure and desperate and unconditional, has a power we don't fully understand. 5 years have passed since that night. Emma is now 12 years old, thriving in school, playing soccer, living a completely normal life with no signs of the tumor that once threatened to take everything. Medical journals have documented her case as spontaneous regression of inoperable glioblastoma, a phrase that sounds scientific but really means we have no idea what happened. Sarah still thinks about that figure of light she saw in the hospital room. Was it an angel? A hallucination brought on by exhaustion and grief? She doesn't have answers, and she's made peace with that. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only experienced and cherished. What she does know, with absolute certainty, is that she asked for the impossible and received it. Today, Sarah volunteers at the same hospital where Emma was treated, spending time with families facing their own impossible diagnoses. She doesn't promise them miracles or guarantee happy endings. She simply sits with them in their pain, holds their hands, and reminds them that hope isn't foolish, it's human. She tells them about that night at 3:33 a.m. when heaven answered her impossible wish. Emma, now fully aware of what happened to her, has started speaking at events about her experience. She doesn't remember the figure of light or the moment of healing, but she knows her life is a gift, a second chance that defies explanation. Together, mother and daughter have become living proof that love can bend reality, that faith can move mountains, and that sometimes, when we dare to ask for the impossible, heaven might just say yes. So what do we take from Sarah and Emma's story? Perhaps it's this. We live in a world that tries to tell us what's possible and what isn't, what we should hope for and when we should give up. But the truth is, we do not know the limits of what's possible when love and faith collide in their purest form. We don't know what prayers are being heard in the moments we feel most alone. Sarah's impossible wish became Emma's miracle. And that miracle has become hope for countless others who refuse to accept the unacceptable. Whether you believe in divine intervention, the power of positive thinking, or simply the mysterious resilience of the human body and spirit, the message remains the same. Never stop fighting for the ones you love. Never stop asking for the impossible. Because sometimes, on an ordinary night in an ordinary hospital room, heaven is listening. And when heaven answers, everything changes. If this story moved you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced something impossible becoming possible? Share your story with this community. And if you know someone who needs hope today, share this video with them. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories that remind us we live in a mysterious and sometimes miraculous world. Hit that like button if Emma's story touched your heart. Until next time, keep believing in the impossible.